So basically, I will make a brief introduction to the European Territorial Cooperation Projects. And after my presentation, if you have any questions, you're free to ask them. So what is INTERREG and historical background? Well, INTERREG is briefly interregional cooperation. And interregional, we mean the regions in Europe, mainly the region as a NUTS2 level. So the definition of the European Commission of European Territorial Cooperation is that it is one of the two goals of cohesion policy and provides a framework for the implementation of joint actions and policy exchanges between national, regional, and local actors from different member states. The overarching objective of European territorial cooperation is to promote a harmonious economic, social, and territorial development of the Union as a whole. So basically, those are programs devoted to European integration as such. So in the current 2014-20 period, which will finish soon. Now we are in the period of closure of this current 14-20 period and opening of the next one, which is 21-27. I mean, programming goes in programming periods of 7 years. About more than 100 ERDF funded programs are divided in 3 strands. So basically, INTERREG is not one program. Those are more than 100 programs funded by the European Regional Development Fund. Okay. So to give you a bit of a historical background, INTERREG was introduced as a community initiative in the 90s. And back then, a direct link was established between the border regions and European integration. So as you could see here, INTERREG 1 lasted very little compared to now, just 3 years, and had, of course, a smaller budget, and only 11 member states participated, and it was devoted only to cross-border cooperation. So cross-border cooperation was recognized as a factor of European Union necessary for economic growth and territorial cohesion back then. And it's the aim of the approved programs here, about 30 programs were approved back then, was to support the development and economic restructuration of the border regions. So you could see that here in the graph, INTERREG has been growing bigger since. And following the Maastricht Treaty in '92, the economic and social cohesion is confirmed as one of the Union's priorities, which basically stabilized the position of INTERREG as program, as a goal of the cohesion policy. And the programming period doubled to 6 years, and the budget for INTERREG more than tripled. Then, according to the subsidiarity principle, the European Commission disengaged more and more from the management, from the everyday management of the programs, and left that management more and more to the local and regional authorities. However, it still controls the use of the funds. What does it mean concretely? Is that here in this period, it is mainly the regions and regional and local authorities who manage the programs, which is still the case. Then in 2007-2013, a new fund architecture was adopted based on a more strategic approach following the Lisbon strategy. 3 new objectives were defined, which is convergence, funded by ERDF and DSF, for regions with GDP less than 75% of the EU average. Regional competitiveness and employment, again, an ERDF and DSF funded goal, objective, for regions not covered by conversion. And the third one was ETC, European Territorial Cooperation. So European Territorial Cooperation has for aim the reinforcement of the cooperation between different European territories and is co-funded by ERDF. And you could see here that for this period, it is already much bigger than all the member states participate. We have a funding of about 9 billion euro. And for this period, it is even more. So the future programming period, that is actually, okay, we have the regulations, we have the list of approved programs, but we are still waiting for the programming to finish and to start, yes, for the programs to start the calls for projects. And the programming period now goes from 21 to 27 plus 3 years for the closure. So INTERREG. INTERREG is composed by 3 strands, which are the CBC strand, the transnational, and the interregional. So now we start with the CBC, which stands for cross-border cooperation. So cross-border cooperation covers about 60 cross-border programs. And I'm giving you here the map of this period, which is ending. And you could see that, well, grosso modo for the next period, it will be the same thing with small changes. But you could see it later on when they publish the information. So basically, INTERREG 5A, yeah, it's called also INTERREG 5A, situates itself along the 38 internal European borders. And unfortunately, you will see here that Valencia doesn't have, not having any kind of border, doesn't benefit from cross-border cooperation, which is, however, the main strand of territorial cooperation, with a contribution of about 6.6 billion. Then we have CBC external cooperation, which separates in two, could be separated in two different zones. One is the IPA zone, which is here, up here. IPA meaning Instrument of Pre-Accession and concerns the Western Balkans and Turkey. Those are the candidate countries. So basically, they benefit of cross-border cooperation through that instrument of pre-accession. And this is supposed to facilitate their integration in the EU even before they become formal members. And also we have external cooperation, the neighborhood instrument, which covers generally all the neighbors of the European Union, as you could see here. And there we have 16 European Neighborhood Instrument cross-border collaboration programs. And well, concerning Valencia, there is one only that is relevant for you for the moment. And this is the Mediterranean one that covers all the Mediterranean. The others being located here on this side. So then we have the transnational strand. Transnational means that it's not, the program is not set up around the border, one border region, but around more like, let's say, a natural resource that many countries have to manage. Like, for example, here the Baltic Sea, around the Baltic Sea, or here Alpine space around the Alps, or the Atlantic area, all the countries touching the Atlantic Ocean, or Adriatic Union here. So it depends from the zone approved in the geography of the program. And the program actually, yes, that is relevant for Valencia, it's the MET program, which is here, that works with all the Mediterranean. It is settled, it is managed by the region of PACA, Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, and it's settled in Marseille. Okay, so there is one last strand that is, okay, the interregional cooperation. Okay, interregional cooperation basically has only 4 programs. One that funds projects where you could apply. That is generally interregional cooperation program called INTERREG Europe. And there is very, very common misconception that when we say INTERREG, everybody thinks about INTERREG Europe. So they think about one program. And INTERREG in general is the goal in the cohesion policy, and INTERREG Europe is this program. So yeah, INTERREG Europe is just one program in INTERREG. So basically it's a policy learning program for European public authorities that promotes the exchange of experience, transfer of good practices between actors at all levels in Europe, and it encourages the share of knowledge basically among authorities. And it's supposed that this will reinforce the effectiveness of cohesion policy. So then we have URBACT 3, the program. URBACT is very focused on urban cooperation. So basically it fosters sustainable integrated urban development in cities across Europe. Then we have INTERACT 3, where I work for the moment. And this is a program which is, well, briefly say, technical assistance for all the INTERREG programs. So we are helping the programs in their implementation and also clarify the regulations and also ensure exchange of good practices, facilitation of training, learning, etc. So then the last program is ESPON, which is a program that basically supports a lot of regional research. So we have lots of universities participating in there. Evidence-based territorial development that funds a lot of yes, publications and research projects. And okay, that's it for the INTERREG, interregional cooperation. So basically, I said that INTERREG is one of the strands, the other one being funding mainstream programs. Mainstream programs, well, when I say that, I mean, for example, the operational programs dealing with Valencia region, managed by Valencia, and basically every European region benefits from that kind of funding. And as I mentioned earlier as well, my research is about what are universities doing in that, in the ERDF projects, especially INTERREG projects. So concerning the literature, there is no information for the moment about what they do in INTERREG projects, but there was a very large analysis, very big analysis on what they do in mainstream projects, in regional projects. So here I would like to present you the results of John Goddard from 2011 from this analysis across Europe. And basically he and his team separated the role of the universities in ERDF projects in 4 groups. So the first one is still enhancing regional innovation through research, and the concrete activities, the specific activities that were linked to that first participation were like consultancy, innovation vouchers, knowledge transfer partnerships, science and technology parks, research and technology centers. Then we have promoting enterprise, business development and growth, graduate enterprise, training, placements, new firms, university spin-outs, networks and cluster development, encouraging intellectual property development, international linkages, etc. Then we have the contributing to the development of human capital and skills. So workforce development, increasing mobility of staff and students, talent attraction and retention. And the last one was improving social equality through community development and placemaking. And so basically, having worked in INTERREG projects, I realized that, okay, universities are doing the same things in INTERREG, but also we could add a layer of the international cooperation. So basically, that layer of international cooperation is getting more and more important, as you have noticed, especially now around the health crisis, that we cannot solve all the world problems alone at local level. We have to cooperate. And I'm currently finishing my research on that participation of universities in INTERREG projects. But I could already present you just to have an idea about the level of participation already done from universities in that kind of project. So basically there is that KEEP database that I have linked here. You could have the presentation. Oh, okay, yes, here it is. Which collects, it is done by INTERREG, and it collects all the projects from all the programs, all the INTERREG programs for the last periods. And basically, since my research is carrying on the previous period, which is 2007-2013, we could say that there are about 9,800 projects from a total of 10,461, or 94% representativeness of the projects at European level in the KEEP database. So from all those projects, 7,950 partners have been identified as higher education institutions from 45,567 partners, out of which about 7,173 from the EU. So basically, approximately 17% of all the participations in the INTERREG projects for the 2007-2013 period were higher education institutions. So this is not nothing, given the fact that INTERREG is actually territorial development and not focused on research, which means that universities basically have made a big move towards territorial development, and this could be systematized and worked upon much more. As also recognized by Commission concerning mainstream programs when they started regional specialization and smart specializations for regions. So basically, what I did with that data was to sort it by NUTS2 in order to allow correlations with Eurostat. Okay. I'm sorry. Here you could see the mapping of the partners. So as you could see, light blue is the cross-border cooperation is the most present, which is logical because it has also the higher funding. And so concerning the participation, we could see that French universities are the more active, followed by the Spanish ones, and then Germany, Italy, and Finland. Concerning the topics chosen by universities where to participate, most of them went for clustering and economic cooperation, followed by agriculture, fisheries, and forestry. And then education and training, health and social services, and regional planning and development. Basically, now concerning my research, I'm ending with my research here because it's not finished yet. I would like to analyze the participation of the Valencian region more specifically as a case study. And now I will stop here and move on to the programming period 21-27, where I will present to you just very general introduction of the next programming period. And then later on, if you have any questions, I could send you also the links to all the regulations that were already approved. For the next period, we will have four strands already, not only three. So we will have cross-border, as presented for this period, a transnational, interregional, and integration of outermost regions in their neighboring environment. So concerning Spain, outermost region, that will be the Canary Islands. The other outermost regions being French. So then we have more focused action around the following objectives as another change coming for this period. So the Commission has decided that it is much more useful to focus the resources in a limited number of priorities in order to have more impact. And those are more competitive and smarter Europe, greener, low carbon transitioning towards a net zero carbon economy and resilient Europe, more connected Europe, more social and inclusive Europe, Europe closer to citizens, plus two specific objectives for INTERREG, better cooperation governance, and safer and more secure Europe. So for this period, again, almost 10 billion are shared between more than 100 INTERREG programs across the borders and outside the EU, which will contribute to implement the cohesion policy's main priorities. And concerning the timing, the programs, according to Article 16 of the INTERREG regulation, the member state hosting the managing authority of the program shall submit an INTERREG program to the Commission by 2nd of April 22. So the managing authorities have time until 2nd of April this year to submit the program that they would like to have approved by the Commission, and then the Commission will have to give their opinion about this program and say if they approve it or not. And basically they have, according to Article 18, not more than 5 months after the date of the first submission to approve the program. So that might give you an indicative timeline of when you could apply eventually. Well, it depends, of course, on the specific program where you would like to apply and on when did they actually submitted their program to the Commission, and if they were, yes, early or on time or a bit late. But basically, there are programs as well that are a bit brave and even start opening the first call while at the same time getting approval. So it's like on program to program basis. You have to check with the specific program where you would like to apply about the timeline. So concerning Valencia, where you could apply, there is that main eligibility criteria about the location of partner, which means that if you are situated in the approved territory of the program, then by default you are eligible concerning your geography. However, there is an exception to that rule. If you could participate basically in all the programs, even if they're not covering Valencia, only if the program allows that, and if you manage to justify what exactly is the benefit for the project and for the given territory of your participation. So if you do that, it's not exceptional to have partners from Valencia, for example, participating in, let's say, I'm not talking about concrete cases, but let's say Baltic Sea or Central Europe projects. So programs covering Comunidad Valenciana will be, okay, no cross-border as we saw. ND2, which is the neighborhood instrument, that's the new name for next period. That will be the next MED program. Concerning the transnationals, you will have the Sudoe program, which covers the Iberic Peninsula in southern France, and Euromed, which is the Mediterranean program. And then interregional, ESPON, URBACT, and INTERREG Europe. So what information about all that? So here I'm giving you some examples, which are not an exhaustive list of where you look for information, but basically all those programs do love proactive partners. So please do not hesitate to contact them, to write to them, call them, participate in their lead partner seminars, interact with them on social media. So basically use them as as information sources. Then the program's website, of course, is the first basic information. Then when I say here program contact, call or write, it's not only the managing authority. Some programs might have liaison offices in different countries, or also the NCPs, the so-called NCPs, the national contact points. Please do not hesitate to write to the national contact points for Spain, in Madrid, most of them. So contact them, ask them, okay, do you think that this project is, I have an idea for this and this project. Do you think that it could be good for this program? Do you have any connections with other Spanish partners working on this? Or, you know, maybe outside of Spain? But basically, they could help you a lot with program rules and also the specific call rules, because every call might have different rules. Then we have also networking events. Many programs sometimes organize networking events for partners, so that you meet other institutions from all around Europe and you discuss your ideas, you exchange, etc. So how do you apply? So everything starts with an idea. Let's say you have that idea, and then you see that, okay, there is that program opening a call for where I could apply with my idea. Then what you should do is to check the terms of reference for the call, to see what are the concrete, the specific requirements for participation and to get the funding. And then after you have checked and you have seen, okay, yes, my idea answers exactly to the terms of reference for this call, I could apply, I could either lead the project or be a participant you decide, you evaluate your capacity in there, and you start forming a partnership, or you find a partner you could that is already done and you could join. That kind of networks events or lead partner seminars that I mentioned in the previous page are the perfect place where you could meet other partners in order to form a partnership, already working on a similar idea like yours. Then all of you should draft the application form. And when I say all of you, I mean really in an ideal case, all the partners should participate in the drafting of the application form. Not that the lead partner delegates the drafting of the application form to some external expert, and then after the approval of the project, the partners discover that, oh, okay, you're supposed to do this or you're supposed to do that. I mean, you're in a really an ideal world, you're supposed to be proactive and to define your activities in advance and participate in the preparation and the submission of the application. So then around the time the program launches a call, they also start organizing these lead partner seminars in order to explain what they expect from these calls and what kind of projects do they want. So nowadays with the sanitary situation, they have moved also some of the activities online. So basically take advantage of that and participate anywhere you could participate in order to get the maximum information. And basically you could, so that's the place also where you could connect not only with partners but also with the program itself. Also, another practical advice would be do not submit last minute. So check carefully all the eligibility requirements. And when I say eligibility, this is just the formal requirements. So if they say, okay, we need 5 partners from 5 different countries, and you apply with 4 partners with 4 different countries, then you will not even get through the formal level. And they will not even read your proposal. So make sure that you cover all the eligibility requirements and all the formalities. And also take time to get to know the monitoring system through which you apply. Because given the fact that every program is managed by different regional or local authority, they are not using the same monitoring system, which means that maybe you will have to learn to use different systems in order to apply. And that might take time with some of them. And believe me, we have had the cases where the system crashed because everybody wanted to submit last minute. So you want to avoid that. So what will happen next after you submit your application? The program will go through an eligibility check, which is the formal check, if you respect all the formal requirements. And afterwards, if they decide, okay, this project respects all the formal requirements, they will proceed to an assessment of the quality of the project. Sometimes it is done internally, sometimes externally. It depends on the program rules. Then the projects are graded and proposed from the program for funding. So basically the managing authority proposes the projects to the so-called selection committee. And the selection committee is composed from all the member states participating in the program. So they get that list, read the projects as well, evaluate them, see if they approve the list proposed by the managing authority. And then after the committee, the results are published. And you might get your project approved or rejected, approved under conditions. So approved and rejected, that's easy. Approved under conditions means that, okay, your project is going in the direction of the terms of reference, but some small things could be improved. So we give you a chance to improve those small things before we fund you. And if you manage to improve them, then we unblock the funds. So congratulations, your project has been approved for funding. What happens next? Then you get a contract. So if you are a lead partner, you sign the contract with the program, the funding contract. If you are a partner of the project, then you sign a partnership agreement with the lead partner. So those are different levels of agreement. And then you can begin with implementation, but pay attention to the program rules applicable. When I was managing projects in the MET program, we have had cases of very angry partners discovering that the MET program rules were not the same as the rules for Horizon 2020. So yes, they are not. One is research program managed by the Commission, the other one is Territorial Cooperation Program managed by the totally different regulation and institution. So make sure you know the rules applicable before you start implementation in order to avoid plenty of maybe deceptions, surprises, etc. So pay attention also that a year or more could go between your idea and the approval of the project. So here I have offered you several useful links. Like the first one is a link of online class that is supposed to start soon. Yes, approved by the Commission and prepared by several European universities about what is INTERREG. And they cover different topics like the history of INTERREG, the development, several thematic subjects. And you could enroll in this online class and basically get to know INTERREG better in order to ensure a better participation later on, or maybe network with other participants who might be your future partners, who knows. Then we have some general info, the regulations, the European website on INTERREG and territorial cooperation, the INTERREG portal, which is also developed by INTERREG, and that gives you an overview of all the INTERREG programs, the goals, etc. The KEEP database that collects the information from all the past projects and approved projects. Then we have here, I have linked the programs that I've mentioned in the presentation where you could apply. So those are for the current period because the websites for the next period are not ready yet. So you have here the neighborhood program, the INTERREG Med, the SUDOE, and INTERREG Europe. And basically that's a very, very brief overview of all that. I mean, I know I'm quite aware that we could have gone much deeper in each topic, but I hope that it will serve you for a general introduction to INTERREG and INTERREG projects and how you could eventually improve your participation or look for new sources of funding. So I don't know, I mean, there are 10 minutes left. Please let me know if you have any questions.